Our speaker this evening is well known internationally, both as a researcher and an author. Most of you are familiar with him, and he will be speaking tonight concerning the greenhouse effect and its cure. I'd like you to welcome Dr. Andrija Puharich.
Thank you very much, Madam Chairman, and distinguished colleagues and friends. It's a happy occasion to be here. I want to make a little announcement. Those of you who know about my work, I'm sure know that I never give the same speech twice. It's a rule with me. And I'm breaking the rule and giving this speech for the second time because of its nature. The other point I wish to make is, if you remember, I always give papers on my original research. I rarely give review lectures or review material. In this particular case, I'm working on a rather grand canvas, a big scale canvas, and therefore I am using other people's material, and I'm quoting people and using other people's photographs and so on. The title is given, Lecture about the Greenhouse Effect, is a very important subject to me, and I sometimes think to myself, I wonder if what we're really doing, that is myself, you as individuals and others, is really in tune with the times, because these are not ordinary times. And maybe what I'm going to talk about may influence what you do if you accept what I'm going to say. As you know, for the last 30 years or so, perhaps a little longer, there's been a lot of discussion about the so-called greenhouse effect. The greenhouse effect means that there is a buildup of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere to the extent that it leads to sunlight being trapped inside the atmosphere, that is, the heat from the sun does not re-radiate and escape. And therefore it's called the greenhouse effect, the same kind of thing you get in a greenhouse. Now this might seem inconsequential unless you know the consequences of a greenhouse effect. First, let me point out to those who like numbers, there's something like 3 times 10 to the 9th power kilograms of CO2, carbon dioxide, in the atmosphere. And because of the strange homeostatic mechanisms of the Earth, this is pretty constant. Measurements have been taken repeatedly by many scientists, by aircraft, by rocket sondes, that show that there is a slow but gradual buildup of the carbon dioxide in the air. Fact is, I would say that in the 3 or 4 major international scientific journals that I read every week, there's at least 1 or 2 articles these days about the greenhouse effect. It has become a matter of great concern. Now, the reason it's become a matter of great concern is we've had very, very unusual weather on this planet, as you all know. Fact is, there's a runaway effect. Some of you may not have been at the lecture, but I gave to me what was to me a rather important lecture several years ago, July of '82, in which I put my neck on the line and said quite clearly, and backed it up with a lot of evidence, that in the next 2 years, that is in '83 and '84, there would be an enormous increase of what I call mini floods all over the planet. And mini floods always bring about drought. That is, one part of the earth gets too much water and the other parts don't get enough. So you have both mini floods and you have droughts. And if you follow the newspaper at all, there isn't a country in the world, or a state in the United States for that matter, that has escaped what I call mini floods. And you know the story from New England to California and from the state of Washington to the southeast where we are now. In some places, and just show the first slide, it'll just be a background. Are you running the slide? Yes, first slide, please. I want to show some background pictures here. These pictures come from perhaps the most conservative, most beloved, most respected magazine in the United States, and perhaps in some ways in the world. Would never exaggerate anything, would not overdo a story. They're very cool, they're very classical. The material I'm going to show you is all from the National Geographic. The picture you're looking at just shows one example of severe drought in South Africa, which has been going on for 3 years, not 2 years, and the elephants are dying just because there's not enough water, and people are going out to try to keep the elephants alive. May I see the next slide, please? Now, there are many weather effects on the planet, and you can read the subtitles while I speak. The entire belt from Indonesia, Western Australia, the southern parts of South America, South Africa, extending all the way across the Indian Ocean to India, has been a belt of severe drought, and some of this has extended north in the case of Africa to the Great Sahel drought, which has been going on for more than 3 years. And the loss of life is enormous.